really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
That's why it's really important to have a plan. Have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is impermanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, we are live this time for real. We're going to be talking about the ETH ETFs here and now. What more? We're going to be talking about Alexei going to prison. We're going to be talking about the Fit 21 and so much more. Joining me tonight, I have a fantastic panel of beautiful people, all wearing, as I noted earlier, white and light gray shirts. And we got Mr. Brendan wearing the fancy fucking hat. I love to see it, dude. Welcome, welcome. For those of you guys that are catching us live, for those of you catching on the replay, we are so glad to have you here, and we're ready to get into some fantastic news articles today. Joining me today, speaking of fantastic news articles, I got some fantastic folks. I got Mr. Brendan, I've got Mr. Zenith, I've got Mr. Agent J. Gentlemen, what is new and exciting with you? Starting with my beautiful co-host, Mr. Brendan. Look at that fancy hat you got there, sir. What's up, bro?
What is going on? This is, I'm a big fan of hats. This is a really nice Bruno Capello. So fairly well priced for the quality that you get. And this is a white and pink shirt, and so it matches my hat. It's very, very nice. And I'm excited. I feel like every time we come on the show, there's some sort of new positive news coming out in the crypto space. And, we've been streaming for 11 months now at this point, something like that, 10, 11 months.
Yep.
And we've talked about the possibility of things aligning, sort of the stars aligning, of things falling into place. And I don't want to jinx it, but it seems to be happening even more and even more quickly than we had even anticipated. So got some really, really good stuff to talk about tonight, and I'm excited to have you all. What's up, Jay?
What's up, bro? You know me, man. Same shit, different day. Out here working on the business, working on the charts. Look, man. Not to toot our horn too much here, but I was telling you guys this in the green room. But you could look out there in the crypto sphere and go through the last few weeks when all of these other influencers talking about the Ethereum ETFs, and none of them thought that they were going to get approved. The only people that were talking about the potential of approval was us, right? Like, I'm not going to say we were the only ones, even though I kind of already said it, but we were like one of the few handful. Because I'm like, yo, we were Sherlock Holmesing the breadcrumb. Like, we were following the breadcrumbs pretty damn well, right? The Templeton listing on the DTCC, that was the first kind of breadcrumb. And then a few weeks back, we got the modifications for Cathie Wood's filing to remove Ethereum staking. And then obviously we went over the legal implications of what it would mean for the SEC and Gary to deny Grayscale their ETF approval, right? Because Grayscale was their final deadline was the day after. Who was it? Who was first in line? Because I think so. Cathie Wood's ARC and Grayscale were that Friday, and then Thursday, I believe it was Van Eck. It was Van Eck. They were the first one, and so we spoke about it. I think both times. Our last Sunday episode, we talked about the legal implications for the SEC if they were to deny Grayscale, right? Because they could not use the same argument that they took Grayscale to court with when it came to the Bitcoin ETFs, right? Because they lost. They fell flat on their face. And unless they came up with a new rational argument that they could present to the judges, they would fall flat on their face once again. And so we connected a whole bunch of these breadcrumbs that, like I said, very few people were talking about besides us. And so coming into the last Sunday episode, we're like, yo, 50% approval for the ETF. I think that's actually reasonable. And because of all of these different stories that came across our desk, we were like, look, man, it's not just speculation anymore, right? It's not just tinfoil hat speculation anymore. But, you know, we'll get into the details later on in the episode. But yeah, man, super freaking excited for what's to come within this space, because all the momentum has been reset and we are spring loaded to jump right back into the upside. I think my personal thesis, we get two right translated cycle into August. Q3 probably is going to be that macro wave 4, and then, you know, that Santa Claus rally all the way up into Q2, Q3 of next year, when the bull market really blows everybody's heads away. So, Z.
And speaking of Santa, I was about to say, speaking of Santa, we got one more panelist who's going to be bringing us some fantastic presents of great ass information and good insight. Zenith, what's new and exciting with you, bro? How are you doing, Santa Claus of the desert?
That's a segue, all right. But yeah, sure. I'm enjoying a 3-day weekend. So, by the way, happy Memorial Day, everyone. This weekend, and particularly tomorrow, is a day of remembrance for all the people that came and died fighting for the country and the values that represent all of us. So we thank them all very much. And remember, this is not Veterans Day, so don't go thanking the vet bros, even though they will probably be out on the boat getting blasted. So that is just what is going on. You know, men and women in the service doing their time-honored tradition of having a good 3-day weekend. But yeah, not much. This is an exciting week. It kind of feels a bit surreal for me because we've been talking about ETH ETF stuff. I will tip my hat to Jay and the rest of the gang, because I know I was on the naysayer category of Ethereum is not going to get approved until August, but that's neither here nor there. So shout out to all the guys who
gotta have both sides, man.
I know.
You gotta have both sides, right? You got to consider both. And we were considering both, right? You had a strong argument as to why it wouldn't. So
I was just trying to bet on the juggernaut that is BlackRock. And I was like, look, 275 out of 276, they're batting damn near 1,000. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is what I got.
Yeah, but
all right, let's get it
Z,
going.
it's not like they still didn't have pressure on the SEC. Yeah, maybe it could have been delayed, but say BlackRock's name's not in the ETF filings and everybody else is. It obviously reduces the chance that ETF is going to get approved. So I don't want to say it, but BlackRock just being there is a weight.
Yeah. So actually,
yeah,
I've got a quick little hop in transition. We're going to do a quick round of shout outs, and then we're going to jump right back in to BlackRock and this ETF and all this fantastic news. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for your favorite part of the show. It's time for shout outs. I went and got this bitch laminated, so we are ready to fucking roll. All right, Mrs. Producer, if you would be so kind as to go ahead and bring up our very first chat. This is from our good friend Kenturian54X, our piloting farmer out there baling hay and doing all sorts of great stuff. This gentleman came in at 3:25 p.m. and I don't know if I presume that's Central Time, because that's the time that my computer's in. But this guy came freaking 2.5 hours early to make sure that he was the first one in the chats. I was late last time, got to reclaim first. What's up, D-Gens? Hopefully everyone is doing things they want to do with people they want to be with. That's the fucking goal, amigo. And that's what we're all trying to do here at the D-Gen Roundtable. And hopefully all the audiences as well. Excelente. Next up, we got Mr. Moonmutt. Good evening, my D-Gen friends. Glad to be here. Mr. Moonmutt, it's good to have you too. I'm going to actually be rolling through your neck of the woods probably about a week and some change from now. So look and listen for a text from me. I'll be swinging through your neck of the woods. Up next, we got Moonpilled Rational Optics. I get Moonpilled. Man, we got so many moon-named people in our chats. Moonpilled Rational Optics saying happy early Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to all of the folks that we want to remember who passed away. I almost said veterans, but that's in September. So happy Memorial Day. I know we just said this, but yes, let's pour out. I'm not going to pour anything out in my car, but you know, I'm metaphorically pouring one out for the homies that didn't come home with us. All right. So yes, happy early Memorial Day. Up next, we got Tam. What up, fam? Tam, always good to see you in the chats. Our #1 pulse chain and D-Gen Roundtable cheerleader. Always a pleasure to have you on. Next up, we got Mr. Angry Twinkie, Agent J /D and of the DGen Roundtable. I've done that plenty of times, and that's in reference to us accidentally messing up our live stream. That was pretty funny, man. I was just going on a roll for like 4 minutes before we broke that little spell. What's up, Jay?
Oh, I said we had to do a take 2, but that's okay, man. That's the fun thing about doing it live, right?
Yep. It's good though, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but I noticed I stuttered pretty hard that first one. So you guys at home, you didn't get to see it. So you only see the good stuff. Up next, we got Hexagon Lawson Asia. Push the red button, bro. Push the red button. You're goddamn right, dude. I don't know what happened on StreamYard's end, but we fixed it and we figured it out, and now we're rolling. Next up, we got Hex Glenn. Hi, everyone. Hello, Glenn. It's good to see you, sir. And then finally, we have Brothers64. Here we go. What's up, G-Gens? D-Gens. What is up, Mr. Brothers64? Glad to see you guys in the chat. I hope you guys got your excellent Brothers 2 of them cookbook, and everything's going sweet up for there, you in the Great White North. All right, and that about does it for the chat. I do see that Farmer Jay's in the chat, so shout out to you, Farmer Jay. And we're going to go ahead and get back into this talk. So, gentlemen, there's an ETF, Ethereum. Price go up, price go down. Oh, my alarm clock's going off to let me know that we need to have gone live 17 minutes ago. That's amusing. Who wants to take this one? What are you guys' thoughts on ETFs? Jay and Brendan have spoken a little. Well, I guess we've all spoken. Somebody take it away from me. I'm just the host. I'm gonna throw it to Zenith.
Sure thing. Yeah, so we had all of the Ethereum ETFs get approved. Pretty much, I think it was 11. Someone can correct me in the chat, but there was the famous listing from the SEC that was getting retweeted all day on Thursday. So it was the story of Thursday was a bit interesting because Gary Gensler had a bit of an announcement. He was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna say anything, but like, I'm saying something today."
He was like, "Stay tuned."
Yeah, he literally like at 9:30 his time, I think, was like, "Oh yeah, stay tuned. We have an announcement today." And then they were like, "Oh yeah, there's probably be before close of business." And then the announcement before close of business was that, "Oh no, the announcement's coming out in like 6 hours." So then we're like, "All right, we're waiting for 6 hours." And then 30 minutes later, Gary gets on stage and says, "ETFs are approved." It's like, oh my God, you absolute menace. So that is what we had. So we had one official day of transactions on Friday, I believe. Remember that the ETFs are traditional finance products, which means that they operate during normal market hours, not 24/7 like crypto does. So we only have one day on the books. And even then, it's been kind of hard for me to even find data about what was going on for that. Everything that I have found so far is pretty much just on-chain data for Ethereum. So nothing too crazy. And I think we're going to actually start to see the first bit of Ethereum action going on this upcoming week, notably starting on Tuesday, because Monday is Memorial Day. Traditional markets, again, not open 24/7 or even Monday through Friday necessarily, because those federal holidays, they get in there. So that's what we got. Jay, what do you think?
Well, I think that the price action, the initial price action that we saw was just the market doing what it always does. It front runs all of this bullish news, right? We got a 20% pump in Ethereum, literally the 2 days preceding the approvals. Because if you guys followed, if you guys followed that timeline, it was one after the other. It was news coming out that every single filer were getting requests from Gary to, hey, please make some amendments to your S1 forms, right? And then exchanges who were probably dedicated custodians for the ETFs that our filers designated, right? They were, I forgot something 1B. They also got requests from Gary and gang to please modify those filings too. Probably had something to do with the custody aspect of the ETFs, right? So, and then we were also getting news. All of this, like I said, you could follow the timeline of events on Twitter from different analysts saying, look, we thought that we only had a 50% chance. Now it suddenly climbed up to a 75% chance. And so the 2 days preceding the approval was when we saw that crazy bullish price action of up 20%, right? I think that's the first time that Ethereum has moved so fast and so hard against the rest of the market by itself, right? If you guys took a look, we might take a look at some of these other charts later on in the show, but Ethereum has reclaimed the trend line that it was losing against Bitcoin since the merge, right? Since the merge happened, right? That was the last time where that Ethereum Bitcoin valuation was in an uptrend, right? Afterwards, from like November on, all the way up until recently, it has been down and to the right against Bitcoin, right? That trend line was finally broken, and Ethereum has started to close days above that trend line, right? I think the ratio right now is 0.055 against Bitcoin, right? So that's a big move for Ethereum. And usually when things of this nature happen, the altcoins tend to respond. Like Ethereum was leading the pack. Even Ethereum derivatives did not pump to the degree that Ethereum did that day. So I think for the meantime, we're definitely going to continue this bullish momentum. I think like I mentioned earlier, my thesis currently is if we get that right translated cycle for this current one, then we ride 2 right translated cycles all the way up into August before that macro wave 4. But I think we don't see the extreme bullish 6,000 new all-time high Ethereum that people are calling for until the ETFs actually start trading. Because you guys, I'm not sure. A lot of people probably aren't aware. They thought, oh, it got approved. That means they're going to start trading. They're not going to start trading yet, right? There's still a lot of back and forth, unfortunately, because of the speed at which this series of events occurred. There's still a lot of details that have to be ironed out before it could start trading, which could take anywhere from a few weeks to maybe like an entire month. So we'll see, man. We'll see. We are basically at the behest of GG and the filers, right? It really depends on how quickly they can iron out those details. So. How about you, Bean? What are your thoughts, bro? Or Z, go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned the Bitcoin charted against Ethereum, which is that it broken out of a downtrend. Shout out to everybody in the Telegram that was checking out the stuff I threw in there earlier, which was talking about the Bitcoin dominance chart, which is that I've been tracking an uptrend on the Bitcoin dominance chart that was looking to have an inflection point here at the end of July, but we actually broke below that trend line, which leads me to believe that this might actually be a bit of a move. So we've got about six days of confirmation on the daily, but we only have one weekly candle that started to break below it. I labeled this as unga bunga charting because I personally don't think that the dominance chart is super. You can't really like do all the traditional stuff you want with a dominance chart, especially a percentage one, just because the way the numbers work out, it gets kind of wonky. But the point is that this looks like a narrative marking event, which is that this is the turning of tides and this is possibly a shifting towards Ethereum. Because up until this point, Bitcoin has just been on an absolute tear and has been the one pulling the rest of the market with it. Now it looks like it might be possible for Ethereum to start picking up some of that slack and start pulling the market as well. We're gonna have to wait and see though, because the other half of this is that this was the second biggest narrative event, or pretty much of the year. So I'm a third if you include the Bitcoin ETF. So we had Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin halving, and now Ethereum ETF. Really, we don't have that much left going on for the rest of the year other than just like US elections, but that's always pretty much been set in stone. All the other stuff was kind of wishy-washy. So
yeah. And the dominance chart, it makes sense, right? Because if the ETH Bitcoin valuation created that big Chad candle, you guys could see, man, that was a really Chad candle that the ETH Bitcoin chart made the other day. It would make sense that the dominance chart would reflect that as well, right? And I know Z said that it's kind of hard sometimes to track the dominance. The thing is, you could look at dominance in just a single way. It's a proxy for where the capital is flowing in the market, right? If Bitcoin dominance is extremely high, one of two things is happening. It means there's a narrative shift from altcoins into Bitcoin, and so capital is flowing into Bitcoin, which is what happened because of the halving, and then also because of the ETFs. Or it could be a sign that shit is hitting the fan and people are flying to Bitcoin because they're trying to preserve their capital, which which it would make sense if you're putting it either in stables or you're putting it in Bitcoin, right? And that usually doesn't happen unless it's a bear market. So those are the two things, right? It's a proxy for where capital is going in the market. If Bitcoin dominance is really high, it means people are buying a lot of Bitcoin and trading into Bitcoin from altcoins. If Bitcoin dominance is really low, it probably means that altcoins are starting to take off and starting to accumulate that big market share. So,
yeah, it's interesting, right? Because ETH ETF happened a lot faster than people had anticipated. And I was just saying that, right before it happened, that the market hadn't priced it in yet. So the market didn't think that it was going to be approved. The market generally front runs you with Bitcoin a lot faster. But I think that the SEC kept this one closer to the chest. I think that they were doing their best to keep it under wraps so that there wasn't this news, there wasn't this, ups and downs that happened before and up until the Bitcoin ETF, spot ETF got approved. It's also interesting that, we're only up about 20% on ETH since that happened. And, that's not a bad number. Like Jay said, we haven't really seen any of the ETFs actually happen yet. I mean, look at what happened last time. Vanguard approved, and then they never actually offered it to their customers. So there's still, after the approvals, it has to, the switch has to be turned on at each of these institutional funds, right? Okay, here you can now buy it. Here you can now add it to your portfolio, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a process in place. The other interesting aspect comparing it to Bitcoin is Bitcoin shortly afterwards cracked its all-time high. We're still $1,000 away from Ethereum's all-time high. So in my opinion, I think we have a fair amount of opportunity to run on the Ethereum side over the next several months, over the next several quarters. And while Z said we don't have a lot of new news or big events potentially upcoming, I think the biggest and maybe the most exciting event that we didn't expect is sort of the tide changing within the government. It's not just Republicans that seem to be hopping ship and wanting to get into approving more regulation for crypto, good regulation, but we're now starting to see a lot of Democrats, maybe because they're really hurting for votes, that they feel like they need to start changing a little bit, because think about the minority that is crypto. It's a large percentage of the United States. And so they're seeing that as, hey, this is a block of voters that I can't turn my back on, even if they might want to turn their back on, or I might not be able to get elected. And so sentiment changing could be the biggest next thing, for us moving forward as we continue to climb up, right? We still haven't hit that much further from the halvening. We still have what I would say is a while until we hit all-time high, what will be the all-time high for this cycle. So all of these things needed to fall into place first. And all of that momentum continues to build. And this is really exciting. And again, it's still only a few countries that have Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETFs. How many more are going to start offering it? Are we going to see corporations starting to hold ETH on their balance sheet like we've seen so many start to hold Bitcoin? I'm curious to see what that level of adoption is from an institutional perspective, from a country's perspective. Are we going to have a country like El Salvador say, hey, Ethereum is legal tender here in our country? I'm really curious to see how this takes off compared to Bitcoin. I still think Bitcoin, from an institutional standpoint, is the front runner. And I think the most money is going to continue to pour into that. But this is huge for the market. It's huge for Ethereum. It's huge for the future of altcoins. And if this is pretty much deemed not a security, since it now has a spot ETF, then what does that say for Pulse Chain? Pulse Chain really can't be a security if Ethereum isn't. And so what does that do for the court case where the government is suing Pulse Chain and Hex? Wait, there's government suing a computer program? Yeah, doesn't make sense. But they're also suing Richard Hart, right? And so I think this also has ripple effects on the Richard Hart case. And so it's not just an ETH ETF that makes this bullish, but this is bullish for crypto in general. This is bullish for so many things within the ecosystem and within the crypto stratosphere that we cover, that we're interested in. And man, it's exciting.
Yeah. I think the reason that we're seeing the markets adapt and change is partly because I think people themselves are showing that they're willing to adapt and change, not just their ways of thinking, but their actual behaviors and the actions they take. This was a theory that I bounced off Will and the rest of the panel on Friday's book club, which is that it seems that in the last 10 years, people have become much more willing to take on risk on assets or participate in risky activity. I think it's partly explains why sports betting has, and just like online gambling has kind of exploded in the last like 5-10 years, not just because the legislation and the rules surrounding it has made it more legal, but also because the people are more willing to do it. The reason that they make money is because people are willing to put money into it. And I think that because you see people adopting this more risk-on mentality, I think partly my analysis is that they adopt the risk-on mentality because it's more of a desperation play or a feel that it's harder and harder to stay afloat. Therefore, they're willing to take more risky ventures to regain that cap or regain that whatever that difference is that they feel like they've lost. Yeah. So when it comes to the markets, previously things like biotech stocks and whatnot and tech stocks were like the hot or risky assets or whatever, because it's like the biotech stocks is like there's 1 out of every 100 that will actually like last the test of time, but then at the same time they will also be the stock that like does 1000x, and people are looking for that kind of stuff. I think crypto is a new avenue for that, and we're not just seeing the adoption within the market space by traditional finance and large players. I think that is more of a play on that there's opportunity and there's money to be made. So people, whether you're left or right of center, if you are big money wants to make even more money. So they see this as a way to do that. From the user side, I think that, again, it's the idea of the not being afraid of the risk on assets, which is that people are willing to buy crypto. They're willing to buy the meme stocks. They're looking for those hits that are going to be that home run that gets them 1,000 points. They're looking for the asymmetric gains. And I think that crypto, the adoption of it is really speaking to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yep.
And the opportunity, right? Zenith, right, Jay? Like with sports gambling, where could you gamble previously? On Bovada, and you had to put Bitcoin in to do so. Now the opportunity to gamble is so much more prevalent. And also now we're starting to see the opportunity to put money into crypto is becoming a lot more prevalent. So we should, by your point, Z, blow up more as well.
Oh, for sure. Oh, crap. I forget where it was. I'm going to have to go find this source, but somebody was talking about the fact that traditional finance is getting into the market now is not just a testament. It's not because they've suddenly made the decision to get in. I mean, obviously they have, but also it's because crypto itself has reached the point where it has the ability and the capacity to accept the amount and just the sheer volume of like inflows that can happen through traditional finance, adopting it and then really running with it. Because previously in the other bull markets, if you tried injecting $1 billion or something like that, you'd pump the charts stupid hard. And it would kind of just wreck all the different fundamentals of economics going on within the markets. But now crypto is at this point where it's like it is able to accept this. And is it going to be a massive pump? Absolutely. But it's also going to be reasonable, and you're going to actually be able to make sense of it. And then also believe that you're not just going to get rugged by big finance, but there's actual legitimate market forces going on. This is not just pump and dump, and it's not just traditional finance trying to extract as much value as they possibly can. I mean, they're going to do that regardless, but it's going to be, they're looking for that slow burn over a course of 50 years, looking for a 10% return on average. They're not looking for the next 50x like the retail investor typically is.
Man, if only we had, go ahead, Jay. I was going to transition us seamlessly into the next topic, but go ahead and touch up this one.
I mean, Z and Brendan said quite a bit there that definitely needs a bit of discussion. Number one, I agree with Z wholeheartedly, right? Especially in terms of the entry point for those who want to go into very risk on assets, which crypto is, even Bitcoin, right? Number one, I think one of the primary reasons why people are much more willing to engage in crypto is because the barrier of entry is lower, right? That's number one. It's a lot easier to onboard money into this space. Number two, even though, yes, there are big players, there are whales, there are still market manipulation that goes on in this space as well. The house is not always going to win, right? The stack of cards, like the deck is not stacked against the average player, right? Almost, and there's probably no other space where the average Joe and Jane can put in a portion of their income every single month and make outsized returns, right? They're not going to freeze your trading the same way that they're going to be able to do that in the traditional markets, right? We've spoken about this a handful of times, like China, for example, right? Remember the articles that we covered about them freezing customer trading because so much capital was moving from Chinese-based ETFs onto other nations' ETFs? That shit can very rarely happen in crypto. It certainly can't fucking happen in DeFi, right? It might happen in a centralized exchange, but they cannot do that to us in DeFi. That's number one. Number two, one of the other reasons why this space is getting so big, Z made a very good point. People are much more willing to engage in risk-on behavior precisely, and they might not be able to articulate this the way that Z did, right? But the thing is, people inherently know that inflation is eating away at their capital. Their savings are drained. So where are they going to be able to find those outsized returns? You can't put money in the bank anymore and get 5% and actually make money that way. It doesn't fucking happen anymore. You can't just put your money in the S&P because inflation eats away at your returns, right? And so people might not realize that and be able to say it explicitly, but like there's something in the pit of their stomach telling them that this fucking system here in the West is rigged. I need to put my capital elsewhere, and they're putting it in crypto. They're putting it in meme stocks because this is the final frontier of finance. This is where you extract yourself from the rat race, extract yourself from the rigged system that exists currently, and put yourself in a position to win.
The risk-on statement that I made is, I want to be very clear about this. It's a two-part statement. The first one is I'm trying to describe the activity that is going on. I'm trying to describe the behaviors and what I'm seeing. The second half of that is the opinion piece. That is the reason behind the action, which is that I do think that there's a bit of I guess the scarcity mentality is the way to put it, but it's the idea that you are experiencing more and more pressure and you feel like you were falling behind farther and farther. So you are willing to take more risk to try to get ahead, because the alternative is that you just keep falling back and eventually fade into nothingness. So I think people are that little fear, that part of the brainstem is really starting to hit home a little bit and get people wake people up and have them making moves.
Z, are you saying people need to get more awoke?
No, I'm saying people have a fire lit under their ass, whether it was by themselves or by the economic activity around them, partly caused by the government, in my also personal opinion. But whatever it is, people are acting differently. And I think the reasoning behind it is the environment surrounding them and the fact that the numbers on the sheet just don't go as far as they used to for them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Remember, so Z wasn't part of the team yet when I told you guys this, but Brendan and Will remember when we each told each other the story of why we got into crypto in the first place. That I was in that position, Z. I started my business. I was finally making money that wasn't just, I wasn't living hand over fist anymore. And then I looked at my money in the bank and I was like, what the fuck is happening? I worked my ass and this money is not doing anything. I'm getting pennies in return. And in the beginning, it was the first time I had like a 5-figure sum in the bank. And I was like, what is this money going to do? It's earning pennies in interest every single month. And then that's when I started to look for avenues to park my capital instead of collecting dust literally collecting dust in the bank. That's how I found crypto. And I think a lot of other people were in my position, like in my very same position, Z. And I think like the rest of the panel and probably the chat can resonate with it.
Yeah, what's crazy about banks is they've transitioned away from being like, hey, I'll hold on to your dollar, I'll hold on to your valuable gold and give you these paper notes. And now it's like, hey, I am your one-stop shop for electro internet money. Basically, until you get cryptocurrency. Like nobody gets fucking cash paychecks anymore. Nobody nobody gets fucking just nobody goes around waving these green bills anymore. If you want to interact with the world, you're doing it with a little plastic card or you're doing it with the phone. And all of that information is stored on this archaic this archaic retarded ass ledger system that is the modern banking industry. And we're all kind of stuck using these things until these until the advent of cryptocurrency, and now they're starting to combine the two cryptocurrencies. We've got the Ethereum ETF now. We've got the Bitcoin ETF. Yeah, they can only trade Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern, whatever whatever the trading hours are, right? But like it's a start of the combination of the old and the new. And so if you guys don't have Brendan, I want to throw it over to you real quick, and then I'm going to launch us into our first article about Ethereum lacking a simple one-liner for boomers to get on, because I think we're dovetailed really well into this topic right now. Z, if you want to go ahead and start getting the screen share ready for Mrs. Producer to pull up, I think that we're almost at that point. Brendan, I want to throw it over to you though, bro. You had something. It sounded like you had something that you wanted to say before we launch.
Yeah, something quick. And Will, like you were saying, traditional banking system. What does it have? It has intermediaries that have to get paid, and it has slow transaction time. So crypto
slippage.
Does solve a lot of the problems with the traditional system from a speed standpoint, from a standpoint of being more efficient and working one-on-one, peer-to-peer. You know what I mean? We don't need multiple people in the middle of us that have to take a cut of those transactions, right?
MasterCard, Visa, all that crap, like 3% or fucking, whatever the hell it is that they charge. Like, that's a crazy amount of money for the privilege of being able to spend money. It just in my 2 cents. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please finish.
We still have to pay gas fees, so it's not like transactions are free. So it's not like there isn't some cost involved as well. But the other thing I want to say is, we're still only at 2.7 trillion market cap in crypto. So we haven't hit the all-time high. I know only, right? Because our all-time high was just at 3 trillion. but think about that. Think of when I say only, I'm serious. We're only at 2.7, and we haven't even really started to take off yet. We're just still building this pressure of the crypto being pushed down below water, lower and lower. The pressure's building, and when that explodes, it seems like people are like, "Oh, well, Bitcoin already hit its all-time high." Yeah, but it's staying right around its all-time high as a support level. That's freaking ridiculous. To be within 10, 15, 20% of its all-time high at support, it's ridiculous. So the pressure that's building in the crypto sphere is immense. And this is just another one of those additions to that pressure that's being added. And what happens, pressure has to release at some point. And when it does, holy moly, the opportunity for this cycle and where we could get from a market cap standpoint is crazy. And I think, in one of our perfect storm theory episodes, we talked about what we thought that market cap could hit this cycle. And I think a lot of us were in the 8 to $12 trillion range. So if we're only at 2.7 trillion right now, we still have a 3 or 4, maybe at the high end 5 or 6x potential within the market. Now that doesn't mean that some coins couldn't do a 10 or 20 or 50x and other coins not do anything. That's certainly going to happen, right? You're going to have some volatility within the sector, but we're only at 2.7 trillion, and we're at a support level at 2.7 trillion.
So, quick fun fact for you: at a market cap of $2.7 trillion, I know it's not a one-to-one apples thing, but the market cap is currently larger than the annual GDP of Canada, Italy, and Brazil, which all come in at about $2.3 to $2.2 trillion. We're coming up on France, UK, India, Japan, and Germany, which ranges from 4.6 trillion to about 3.1 trillion. So it's for reference, this is a lot of money. It's a lot.
Crypto's got more money than Canada.
Hey guys, before we transition into the first segment here, I promised the gang and I promised the chat this, because I told them that when the ETFs got approved, there was one person who was not having a good time. And that was our favorite Bitcoin maximalist, Michael Saylor. If you guys remember, I don't know if you saw, but he was the keynote speaker at a event that MicroStrategy, I believe it was MicroStrategy held event. This was the Bitcoin for Corporations event. And obviously Michael Saylor had to go up on stage and talk up Bitcoin. And in the process of talking up Bitcoin, he had this to say about Ethereum and all the other potential spot ETFs. Take a look.
Send it. Oh man.
Here we go.
This is
this is a treat. This is a treat because this was so fresh in my memory. I was like, bro, this guy's not gonna have his X page is not gonna have a good time.
I've listened to this like 10 times. It's that good. It's that good.
Yeah. So here we go.
End of May, you'll know that Ethereum is not going to be approved. And when Ethereum is not going to be approved, sometime this summer, it'll be very clear to everyone that Ethereum is deemed a crypto asset security, not a commodity. After that, you're going to see that Ethereum, BNB, Solana, Ripple, Cardano, everything down the stack is just a crypto asset security unregistered. None of them will ever be wrapped by a spot ETF. None of them will be accepted by Wall Street. None of them will be accepted by mainstream institutional investors as crypto assets. This is the one universal consensus accepted institutional grade crypto asset in the world. By the end of May, you'll know that Ethereum is not going to be approved.
There is no second best.
There is no second best.
on that note, I'm gonna share one thing here from Twitter.
Do it. Oh my god! Hang on, I got a full screen real quick. Sailor saying there might be a second best. Oh my god!
Oh, isn't that amazing? Guys, that keynote speech was at the beginning of May. And obviously we all just talk his book, bro. But I mean, God, imagine his DMs. Bro, I thought no spot Ethereum ETFs, Mr. Sailor.
Well, not only that, but man, does he sound like he's giving really bad financial advice.
I mean,
yeah.
If you're a
he sounds like he's giving financial advice, but not in the way that you should be giving financial advice.
Maybe Michael Saylor should go rob a bank.
He's not going to change. He's not going to change. He's going to keep buying Bitcoin, which is fine because that's still good for the overall market. That's still good for Bitcoin. Yep. Yeah. The more Bitcoin rises, the more everything rises. So look, Michael Saylor, he's still an ally, a big ally to us in all of the aspects of crypto. So I don't want to, say, hey, we're trashing on him too much, but it is pretty funny when he comes out and then 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, we get a spot Ethereum ETF and it's deemed not a security.
Michael Saylor's a big boy. I think he can take it on the chin. He can take it on the chin, man. I mean, come on. When you make big, bold statements like that and you're proven wrong by the rest of the market, I mean, you got to be a good sport about it, man. Otherwise, people are just gonna keep dogpiling on you. Like, let's be honest.
I think he's a double-edged sword here, which is that this is the crypto community. We take the piss out of each other. It's all in good spirits, but at the end of the day, everyone in crypto also realizes that Michael Saylor kind of is the front man for crypto right now because of the fact that he was that TradFi guy. He made a massive bet with MicroStrategy, just going all in on Bitcoin, and ever since then, he got proven right by the market, and he makes sense. He speaks very eloquently. If you want an excellent explanation from the 0 to 100 of Nana knows nothing about Bitcoin, what is Bitcoin and why should anyone care? That's the person you're going to put there. That is the person to explain that kind of stuff.
I think Uncle Peter's not having a good time either.
Old Peter Schiff.
Hold up.
What you got, Will?
Hold up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels. We got a super chat from the fantastic Brothers 64 from Canada. They sent us $10 and didn't say anything in the super chat, but they had another chat right before it where they say, gotta head out and catch the rest on the replay. Thanks for another great show, guys. Thank you, Brothers 64, with your Justy bucks. We'll probably, I don't know what a Canadian dollar is worth, but we might be able to buy a cheeseburger or something with that. So thank you, sirs. We will invest it wisely. And who's to say what the DGen Roundtable will do with the money? But that is excellent. 20%? Oh, okay, excellent. So 5 Justy bucks is $1 American dollar.
But sometimes Canadian dollars are worth more.
I know. I'm purposefully misinterpreting Brendan because it's more fun that way.
Okay.
But I like it. Thank you, Brothers64, for this fantastic super chat. All right. Ducks and squirrels, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen of all shapes and sizes. Now that we're done making fun of poor Mr. Michael Saylor and his terrible, terrible future prediction abilities, we're going to go ahead and launch into this Cointelegraph article. Ethereum lacks a simple one-liner elevator pitch for boomers, quote unquote. This is from the analysts. So I'm not sure who these analysts are, but they basically go through the article talking about like Bitcoin has a simple one-liner and that's it. We're digital gold. And apparently some people are bemoaning the fact that Ethereum is not easy to understand. I personally disagree. I don't know. Like I read through this entire article and I thought it was just a bunch of whinging. And I think Ethereum's pretty easy. It's a fucking computer combined with money that's like trustless. That's how I see Ethereum. That's like the gas on which the future will ride. And I'm pretty sure they said something about gas in there. Oh yeah, they're calling Ethereum is digital oil. Yeah, there we are. So, gentlemen, what are your guys' thoughts on this article? Do you think that Ethereum is pretty difficult to sell in a little elevator pitch to some boomers? Or do you think it's just not as first in best dressed as Bitcoin? Or what are your thoughts? I'll go ahead and toss it over to, let's see who is unmuted right now. I've got Mr. Zenith
as
and
well if we need.
Oh, we got a video. I'm down for a video.
Yeah. Let's get the thoughts on from the gang first, and then we can actually go over the video because this was a very long podcast, but this particular segment actually gave the Ethereum value proposition in a clear, concise, easy to understand manner that any boomer will jump onto, man. So let's get the gang's thoughts first, and then we can go ahead into the clip.
Well, if you have been watching me on this channel for a long time, you will know that I sound like a broken record when I say that crypto needs a better sales pitch and that people need to do a better job with their sales pitch, trying to get it out to the normies. This is one of those things where it's like Bitcoin is your proof of security or your digital gold. That's very easy to convey. What Ethereum is taking that and then making it usable for automated transactions, which is that you can now program your gold to do things that you want to. So the classic example is like, you don't have to go through an insurance company anymore for a claim potentially. If you can, through a blockchain, have an Oracle service that like a farmer can have an insurance policy, which is like, if the temperature gets above like 95 degrees Fahrenheit during this season for more than like 3 days in a row, then that means there's damage to my crops and I will get paid out the settlement that I would have with the insurance company. Instead of having to go through an insurance company, you can just automate that. So as long as you have an Oracle service that is able to determine temperature and time, and then you can enter into a smart contract by putting your money in there and the insurance company putting their money in there, you can just automate all this stuff. That is the Ethereum virtual machine. That is why it is that gasoline that helps fuel this machine, because you have a currency which is usable and programmable to do many different things that are automated and can be faster and require less human interaction than anything previously.
How about you, Bean? What would you pitch Ethereum to the boomers, or both Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Yeah, look, I mean, one of the first things that people like to say is Bitcoin digital gold, right? Super easy. I would say Ethereum is cutting edge technology that is, developing the cryptocurrency blockchain technology as a whole. It's allowing you not just to buy and sell or hold, but it's allowing you to build, similar to how you build websites on Web 2, similar to how companies scale up from a technology standpoint. Ethereum allows us to scale and to build projects on a blockchain that can be used for many different things. And so, like Zenith said, Bitcoin is a buy, sell, hold. Ethereum is a way to program and use the technology for a multitude of different ways. And that's really important, because if we think that blockchain is a faster, more secure way of transacting, then we need a way to program it. We need a way to build on it. And Ethereum gives you that ability. And of course, yes, it costs money to make transactions. And so Ethereum allows for that through their Ether gas fees. Now, I think it's a little bit more challenging. I think it's easier to explain Ethereum on a high level like that. But I don't think when you start getting to layer 2s and layer 3s and really getting into the weeds of it, I think it's a little bit more challenging to give somebody a full understanding of it. But most people don't need to get that deep. All they need is a surface knowledge. I mean, when people are looking to buy and sell a stock, most of the time they're just taking someone's advice. Maybe they're looking into it on the surface a little bit from themselves. But yeah, I think that we need to just in general talk about why these projects are important, what makes Ethereum really important, not just for itself, but for the whole crypto. We talk about Bitcoin being important for the entire crypto sphere. Ethereum is 1A, 1B because you can't build without it and you can't scale without it.
Sure. If you want the low level pitch, you just be like, the US dollar inflation is really bad. And in crypto, we say inflate these nuts. So,
but look, I would say that Ethereum is a cutting edge technology that you can build on and create. And you need that.
Oh, yeah. The Ethereum itself as an asset and a blockchain is excellent and a bit of a breakthrough. But the real winner in all of it is the EVM, which is the Ethereum virtual machine. It is a virtual machine that has been replicated and duplicated across many different blockchains with their own tweaks and twists to make it work for them. As we're going to get to in the video here shortly, it's the idea that you thinking about cryptocurrencies as thinking about them as like the US dollar versus the euro is it makes sense on a surface level standpoint, but the true difference is that it's really a difference between softwares. And what Ethereum is it is a new, it's pretty much that 0 to 1 moment where it's like you previously only had the ability to encrypt, send, and receive crypto, but now you have the ability to actually do things, not just like do a specific thing, do whatever you want, because you can make it, you can program it, you can make your blockchain do what you want your blockchain to do. If you want to have security through some sort of L2 and faster throughput, you can do that. If you want to reduce data storage and you want to have massively faster transactions like Phantom, you can do that as well. And if you want to have something which is more proprietary or even has multiple forks of itself to have different little like levels and suites, that's like Avalanche. They have 3 different chains in their one network so that each little subdivision has its own thing. There are so many ways to do this. This is the starting point. Ethereum is that launch pad to iterate on everything. Everything.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's proof of ownership. That's another thing that is important to know, right? Like, hey, what's the big difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum? Well, one's proof of stake, one's proof of work. And, that's kind of somewhat easy to explain. I don't think it's necessary for most people unless they care about environment, which some people do. So something to note, at least.
Yeah. For me personally, the easiest way that I've been able to pitch a one-liner for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin, it's not exactly a one-liner, but it's a short explanation. Like Bitcoin is digital gold, but it has the characteristic of extreme upside potential, right? So that's something that you're not going to get with gold. It's a store of value. It doesn't inflate away your capital the same way that the US dollar or other currencies do. And like I said, it has the upside potential that gold doesn't, right? Because there's a finite amount of supply. So that's easy enough for people to understand, right? Because they know that if there's demand for something and there's a finite supply, then price go up. For Ethereum, I always tell people, look, Ethereum is also fairly easy to understand. You don't need to go and get into the details, right? Ethereum is like betting on the internet. It is the foundation for almost everything that is being built within the space, right? And I think you cannot argue that, because Ethereum, like all of the things that we like, were outgrowths of Ethereum's idea, right? And so if you want to bet on something like the internet that has extreme, massive upside potential, that remember what happened in the beginning, everybody was bagging the internet and those people are crying. That's what people are doing to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, to blockchain technology. You are betting on the internet 3.0. That is what you are doing when you are betting on Ethereum, right? Think of Apple. Where do people, Brendan said it, where do people want to build? They want to build and develop on Ethereum. Where do people get all of their apps? The App Store. That's where people are going to get, that's where people are going to want to build. They want to build on Ethereum. So if you want to bet on something like the internet and like on Apple, then you bet on Ethereum, right? And everything else that might fall under that umbrella. So that's my one-line pitch for people, because it's easy. They know Apple, they know the internet, they know gold, they have some concept of supply and demand. So that's the easiest way I've been able to explain it to folks who are very new to the space. But let's go ahead and transition to the video. This gentleman here is, I believe he is the head of some kind of
of the investment arm of Bitwise, right, which is one of the spot Ethereum ETFs. And for the love of God, I know we have a lot of Pulsicans and Hexicans in our gang. This video is from Bankless. I know you guys are not really big fans of those two dudes, but what does Uncle Jay always say, man? You got to separate the wheat from the chaff. These guys might not get it right on Richard Hart and Pulse Chain, but they give out a lot of good content, including this one. So, extract the value from your enemies.
Wondering about that 2-minute pitch. So what does that 2-minute pitch actually sound like for an RIA? Like, do you get into discounted cash flows and do you talk about the burn? Do you talk about any of these mechanics? Do you talk about layer 2s? It's just such a different world for me to try to think about, because we're so used to talking about like in the weeds types of concepts. I don't even know how that 2-minute pitch would sound. So could you give it to us?
I'll give you the 2-minute pitch, and then you guys will poke holes in it. So that I mean, look, the way I start is by saying, because most of these people have no idea why there's more than one crypto asset. They think of Bitcoin and Ethereum like they think of the dollar and the euro, because they're both currencies. And what I tell them is that's the wrong way to think about it. The right mental model is to think about different software companies. We accept that different software companies use software in different ways. Salesforce uses software in one way, Microsoft uses it another way, Snowflake uses it another way. And there are a wide variety of software companies that optimize software to do different things, to do CRM, to do Word, to build Slack, etc. Crypto assets are the same. Every crypto asset is two things. It's an asset and a blockchain. The Bitcoin asset, the Bitcoin blockchain, the Ethereum asset, the Ethereum blockchain. And those blockchains can be optimized to be good at different things. Bitcoin was the first, and it's a very simple piece of software. Basically, you can send Bitcoin, receive it, hold it, destroy it, do some very simple if-then statements. Every decision it makes is based around the concept of maximizing security and decentralization. Right. So as an example, it doesn't upgrade very often. Why? Because upgrades introduce some level of technological risk. The downside of not upgrading very often is your software is static and it can only do a few things. But if you're designing to be digital gold, all you care about is that it's extremely secure. Yes. And so every decision you're going to make is going to be, does this ensure that it's extremely secure? Yeah. You don't care if it can do a lot of things. You just want it to be able to store wealth. And that's what Bitcoin is. Ethereum looked at Bitcoin and said, it's cool that you can store wealth and teleport it around the world. What if we could program it to do everything? What if we could program it to act like the New York Stock Exchange? What if we could program it to act like a lending agent, like a bank or a prime broker? What if we could program it to host sort of who owns digital art or host digital dollars? There's a trade-off to being that flexible, which is that on the margin, it's less secure. It's not going to be, it's going to update more. It's going to take on more technological risk in order to be more functional. And so what I tell advisors is, if you want to invest in digital gold, that's Bitcoin. If you want to invest in using blockchains to do many more things, that's what Ethereum is, right? You have Uniswap that's built on Ethereum, that's trading billions of dollars of crypto assets. You have stable coins that are built primarily on Ethereum that's putting US bank accounts on every phone everywhere around the world. You have BlackRock that's moving funds from the traditional system into the crypto system, and they're choosing Ethereum. There's more to finance than just gold. There's everything else. Bitcoin is gold. Ethereum captures the rest of this market.
There you go. Sorry, Uncle Peter. There's more to finance than just gold, Uncle Peter. But you see why I love this particular part of the interview? He explained that it was like one of the most well thought out explanations, but it was so fucking simple, right? You want to store your wealth and you want something that's very secure that you can teleport instantly. There's Bitcoin, right? Ethereum came along and said, hey, Bitcoin guys, that's super cool, but we want faster. We want to build stuff, right? And then that's where Ethereum comes in.
Utility.
Utility, right? And so you give that pitch to as many people as you want. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody who didn't understand 95% of it. Right.
That's very true. I think this is this is a concept that I see across the crypto space, and I think a lot of, myself included, is definitely guilty of it, is that when trying to understand new assets and new projects and understand what they do, or like what that product market fit is that I think we have an expectation that every product is going to do a million different things in a ton of different ways, and there's going to be a ton of complexity to it. But the reality is is that a lot of the products are honestly very simple, and that's good. In fact, that's part of the upside. So like when you're trying to understand what the use case for something like Hex is, it's not that Hex does a million different things and you have all of the Hedron and Icosa side where you can stake and lend and there's the watts of NFTs. No. All Hex is code that allows you to create a contract with yourself to lock something up and get more later. That's it. That is the entirety of the concept. Everything that comes after that is how people use it, strategies they build around it, and the reasons to actually interact with it. Yeah. The products themselves are honestly very, very simple. It doesn't have to do a million different things. It doesn't have to shine your shoes and wash your car and walk the dog at the same time. It just needs to be there, be consistent, and give you a simple function routinely that you can rely on and that you can iterate off of later if you choose to do so. So Ethereum is just that. It is taking traditional markets and putting it on the crypto space, and in a lot of cases, trying to remove that middleman to simplify matters.
Yeah. And you know what else was really good about that particular clip is that in so few words, he was able to tell you the exchange, right? The exchange and risk. Bitcoin doesn't do a lot, but it's really secure. But he was like, look, if you guys want to scale, the unfortunate reality is the trade-off of being able to scale into something like Ethereum to layer 2s or to layer 3s is you have to trade off some security for it, right? So it's like, not only did he give you the very simple value proposition of these two things, but he also explained in a little bit, but in the best way possible, right? What the trade-offs are when you're switching from secure and slow to faster and a little bit more surface area for potential attacks.
More avenues, right? If we're talking about one highway that only you are driving down at one time, no one else is on that road with you. But when you start to build an Ethereum, you're starting to connect these roadways to more on-ramps and off-ramps to that main channel, right? And it allows you to do what? To branch out, to create, to build. But all of those roads could cause accidents, could cause a little bit more risk, and you're not fully in control anymore. Now, that's not to say that, hey, look, we shouldn't use Ethereum because, oh, what? You're saying it's really risky? No, we're just saying that anytime you add additional layers, there's going to be potential for more risk. Now, risk isn't necessarily a bad thing. We know that because with risk, high risk can come what? High reward, right? And so to be able to build, to be able to create, yes, sometimes you need to take on risk. Some of the people that are the most successful of all time were the riskiest of all time because they did something that said, hey, look, this might be risky and I might lose everything, but I think there's something here. And so we have to find out, hey, what's my level of risk? Now, you might ask me, hey, Ethereum from an investment standpoint probably isn't that risky now because, hey, we have a spot ETF. It's been around for a long time. But now you talk about a meme coin on Ethereum, and that's a ton of risk, right? So even just from an investment standpoint, we can level and understand, hey, there's different levels of risk here. And I think that's important to know.
Yeah.
And you also got to figure, to add a quick little flip side to that spin, Brendan, is that we have survivor bias when it comes to this risk, regarding anything. All of the best winners in life are the people that took the most risks, and also most of the dead people are the guys who took risks and done fucked up. So take it for a grain of salt. This is why it's important that Brendan's talking about, you got to know your risk tolerance. If you're an older person and you don't have a lot of time left, then you don't want to buy the top of this cycle and then lose it all in the bear and then you die and have to give it away or liquidate or whatever. You're right. Yeah. And if conversely, if you're a young dude and you have the opportunity to make up for all these crazy losses and crashes you might incur, then sure, it might be a good idea to engage in a lot of risk. Jay, it sounded like you were going to say something there. Go ahead, brother.
I was going to say, I think the quote is that the the climb up Mount Everest is paved with a bunch of very successful, talented, and ambitious dead people, and their corpses
Yes.
are evidence of that.
Yep.
It's insane.
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
there's plenty
But
of
we
movies about
remember, yeah, we remember the several hundred people who made it up there, and the rest of the folks, they're just kind of, you know, pretty statues.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Jay, what do you got, bro?
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to comment on what you said there about, look, if you're older, maybe take a little bit less risk. If you're younger, take a little bit more risk. I mean, RG3, there's an example of a guy who's a little bit older, and so he's putting his eggs in like he's not going to diversify into a whole bunch of different things because that increases his like as attack surface for risk, right? And so he's all in on Pulse Chain and Hex. And then there's somebody who we just interviewed him the other day, Donovan. He started when he was 18. He has the ability to take on many more risks because he started when he was only 18 years old, and I think now he's like 26, right? So I just wanted to comment on that real quick. And then finally, something that Zenith said about the cherry on top. Look, when you're explaining this to the boomers, you do it in such a way that it's clear, it's concise, and they get the value proposition, and they get a little bit of, okay, what are the risks with Bitcoin? What are the risks with Ethereum, right? So you give them a small but holistic picture. And then the cherry on top is you let them decide if they want to add the cherry on top. You let them decide if they want to jump into layer 2s, into layer 3s, into GameFi, into GambleFi, into AI, right? So you let them decide if they want to add that cherry. What you're just gonna have to give them is you gave them the base sundae. Here's chocolate, here's vanilla, here's strawberry, you got Napolitan, fantastic. And then do you want to add banana? You want to add chocolate? You want to add cherry? That's up to you.
I just gotta correct one thing. Will, I don't know if you know this, but there have been thousands of people that have summited Everest. That's part of the reason also why there's a lot of dead people, because they essentially commercialized climbing Everest many years ago. And so all of these companies popped up, guaranteeing that you'll be able to summit. In fact, there's a famous movie about it, which is quite good, but also quite sad. But nonetheless, last time I checked, there were like 6,000 or so people that have summited Everest. And a lot of those have been in the last 10 years.
They died doing what they loved, which was living right up until the very last moment.
Well, thousands submitted, but thousands have died too, right? Like, I don't know. Actually, it's a great question. I don't know what the number of deaths are. That'd be something interesting to look up. Just an aside.
Trillions.
I love hiking. I love mountains, and no thanks. I don't mind being risky, but Everest is not on my bucket list.
Top Google result. More than 300 people have died on Everest, and an estimated 200 of those bodies remain there because they are too hard to retrieve.
Yep.
Bro, you just stack them together and ride them like a sled.
Oh my God. I'm the complete opposite of Bean, bro. Like, you guys can have your nature. Okay. I am fully aware of how Mother Nature is always trying to kill us. I'll take my 4 walls and air conditioning, please.
Next week, hey, I'm gonna miss next week's show because I'm gonna be up in the mountains hiking. My cousin's getting married, and yeah, it'll be fun. I miss the mountains.
That'll be fun.
All right, gang, let's do a super duper smooth transition into talking about Tornado Cash. Since we're on the subject of Ethereum, what do you guys say we talk a little bit about Tornado Cash and how some dudes on Ethereum decided to make a really cool product with privacy, and then they got their shit pushed in a little bit. Not a whole lot. They got a 5-year sentence from the Dutch government, right? So this is an article that done makes me a little bit upset here, because it's essentially just like, I'm not sure exactly what frame of mind the author was in, but like just the general idea of the government saying, hey, this person designed a thing and bad guys used that thing, so this guy needs to go to jail. That whole concept doesn't bode too well with me. Like I was telling you guys in the green room prior to the show, like if the freaking, if Stanley makes a hammer and then somebody goes and clobbers someone else with a hammer and does a kill on them, right? Then it's not Stanley's fault. It's not the guy who designed the hammer's fault. It's fucking ridiculous. So this dude getting 5 years, I'm pretty sure he got 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years, 4 months. Exact.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alexei Pertsev, yeah. Developer of Tornado Cash.
This article made my blood boil, Will. This
Yeah.
one made my, and believe it or not, this article led the week. This was dropped like sometime Monday morning.
Yeah, just to give a little reference for folks at home. So the key point in this article, and moreover the judgment made by the court, is that the conviction reinforces the view of several governments that software developers who make their software available to the public will be held liable for the foreseeable consequences of the public's use of that software. And it keeps going. It says, under this theory of liability, it is no defense to disclaim knowledge of a specific criminal act or to point to software's technical limitations in preventing its misuse by criminal actors. It is the developer's responsibility to create mechanisms to reduce or prevent foreseeable criminal use of their software. So the reason that this is actually a marketable shift from precedents in the United States is this is pretty much liabilities law. This is the idea that as a manufacturer, you are liable for the product that you put out, but mainly for defects and harm that comes as a result of said defects. If your product is used and it is not malfunctioning, but the person that uses it does it in nefarious ways and commits criminal action, the result is that the person who did the action is the criminal. Typically, that's how that goes. What this case is saying is the exact opposite, actually, which is that no, because you made a tool that someone then used for a crime, you, the builder and developer and producer, are the one that is now criminally liable for the creation and use of this tool. So I'm going to have to find it. I think there was this is a good tweet. We're going to come back to it, but this is a good one right here, which is like, replace Tornado Cash with any item of your choice. So drunk driver in Ford vehicle kills someone. Ford is liable. They should have made the vehicle different. Someone is murdered with a Colt 45. Colt is liable. They should have made the gun different. Person is beaten with a baseball bat. Therefore, the people that made the Louisville Slugger are liable. That is the example of the logic that the court is using now. In these real life scenarios, this doesn't really make sense because those companies that made a product didn't do a criminal action. Someone just took their product and did the criminal action with it.
Man, the Dutch used to run the world, guys. The Dutch East India Trading Company ran the motherfucking world.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jay.
There, right, from Will. This happened in the Netherlands. Okay.
Yeah.
This shit will. So Roman Storm, which is the co-founder of Tornado Cash, is still set to go on trial here, in the U.S. I guarantee you, this shit will not fucking fly here, bro. Because
careful, Michael Saylor.
Bro, Z already kind of laid it out, right? Just because you developed a software, like, you are not fucking responsible for the bad actors in that space, right? Because, how are we supposed to put limitations on that, right? Like, you can extrapolate that. You can't. How about Facebook? How about Zuck, huh? How about social media, right?
Jay, why are you
social media, right? We got child predators on social media. Should Zuck be responsible for that, right?
Jay,
how about on Instagram? Should he be responsible for that?
Jay, this is the government we're talking about. They're not going to listen to your logical explanation with, reason and like clear train of thought. They're going to do the thing that hinders our abilities, and then they're going to give us a bullshit reason. And then, somebody somewhere is going to put a spin on it that's in the direction of the bullshit reason that they want to give. So that way we palette it. And then they'll pen it something super duper cool sounding like, I don't know. Well, we might call it like a Patriot Act, or we might call it a freedom of freedom and preservation, or preservation of freedom act, or we might call it some other thing. I pulled that one out of my ass. I don't know if that's real or not, but it sounds real. But like, I know that like these guys, like the people that are doing, not Cointelegraph, but well, I don't know, maybe Cointelegraph, but like there's spin doctors everywhere. The government's going to take your abilities in order to do the things that they want to do, and like exert the powers that they want to exert over the people, and then they're going to run it through their little machine, and then the spin doctors are going to spin. And then the general masses that sit within the middle of the bell curve will be like, oh, wow, thank goodness we've got this, benevolent government watching over our backs. Unless they, like fuck it up real bad and they can't even spin it good enough for the middle part of the bell curve. But like your explanations are correct, Jay. Your reasoning is sound. other than the fact that you're using reasoning when trying to disprove the things that the government is doing.
I mean, the
but you're
super
correct,
black
bro.
pilled take on this is that everything is just power games, and that if you try messing with the U.S. dollar and their control on government on international currency, that's going to be an uphill fight from the very beginning. I will say, the only saving grace about this is that this was a Dutch court that was ruled, and that a lot of, I mean, we're all Americans here. We live in the United States. Spoiler. I know I just doxed all of us. Wow. But the point is that at the U.S. system of justice, it can make inferences from other nations. However, at the end of the day, U.S. precedence is only precedent from the United States, not necessarily the Dutch. The article does talk about how if the government is the U.S. government trying to look at this case and use it as a basis for charging, and they said yes. However, now they also have to run into the brick wall that is all the precedent in the United States. The unfortunate thing against us at this point is that there has been more of a public outcry in recent years against to actually start incorporating this kind of liability law into damages and application of justice. If for anybody in the gun community knows, like whenever there's mass shootings, one of the things that happens is that people, or typically the victims or people near the victims, try to call for suing the manufacturer of firearms. It's like, that's not really how it works. The fact that someone used this tool against you in a way that was illegal does not mean it is the manufacturer's fault, even though there is a lot of public sentiment and a lot of people trying to make that possible. So this is another area where this could be an application of that argument, even though I personally think it's a flawed, bad argument. But again, it's an area where people are looking to try to apply it as much as they can.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Go ahead, Jay. No, you go now.
I was gonna say the other thing that makes my blood boil with this fucking article. You guys can tell, I'm fuming just thinking about this shit, bro. It's an abdication of responsibility, right? You have now imposed the responsibility of criminal action, right? Because they cited people like North Korea and shit like that. You have now imposed the responsibility of their criminal actions onto Alexei, right? And probably Roman Storm if he was over there too, right? And so like,
it's
abdication of responsibility is something that I cannot fucking tolerate. At a certain point, you're going to have to tell people, look, you did something wrong. You take responsibility for it. You're of age. You did that wrong thing. You take responsibility for it. Okay. Like who's that Marine, man? He's a big fucking dude. He's like opposite David Goggins, the ultimate responsibility guy. Jocko. Yeah. These fucking assholes need to read Jocko, bro. They need to watch a bit more Jocko.
Look, I
shout out to Jocko, super cool Navy SEAL.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment on the surface level of we obviously want to fight the Lazarus group in North Korea. We can't go put boots on the ground and go invade North Korea because, I mean, for multiple reasons. But there are things that we can do to fight them in the cyberspace and try to thwart their efforts. You don't have to physically put boots on the ground and put a gun in someone's face, but you can play those subtle games, whether it's like economic warfare or just positioning yourself on a global world stage and just building an economy that kicks their economy's ass. So, yes, do we want to fight these people in this sense? Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, though, understand that just because your desire to fight your enemies, it should not subvert your own rules of logic and your own systems in place. Because if you're willing to bend rules for that, then your entire system just no longer applies. Like the reason that the United States has done as well as it has is, I think, is English common law and jurisprudence, which is that we were built off of everything that came from like the Magna Carta in England in the 1300s all the way through the 1600s. And that was the standard and the precedent for the start of the United States. At that point, we are standing on the shoulders of giants. If you want to throw away all the work that people have done in the past just because you want to go fight somebody right now that is throwing rocks at your house, there's going to be a lot bigger complications later on.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because if the argument is, hey, these guys created this platform so that, black market money could be hidden, I think that's the only from a United States standpoint, the only case that someone could make as to why this would be because their creation of this platform was built for, criminal activity. If that's where they're coming, I don't agree with that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, is this the avenue that they take? I actually think that this is going to be a really big deal in the United States from a court's perspective. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the type of case that makes it all the way to the Supreme Court, because there is really important aspects that are going to affect precedents moving forward. And also there are going to be parts of this case that are going to be, within what we might call constitutional grounds. And sometimes it needs to get to the highest level for that Constitution to be upheld. And I hope that they don't get in trouble for creating something. There's a lot of interesting things that Richard Hart has said, that blockchain is freedom of speech, right? Writing code is freedom of speech. And I'm curious if some of those arguments are going to be brought by the Tornado Cash guys. And I don't know where it's going to go. I don't have as much faith as Jay does, because I've seen some of the corruption within the court systems recently, and some of the things that have been allowed to be done at low and mid-level courts that seem fully against Constitution. And yet it happens every single day. And that's why I think, do we know what state he's going to be tried in?
It's Roman Storm by the DOJ.
I bet it's New York.
I would not be surprised if it's.
I'm guessing New York as well. Without looking, my thought was New York. And what does that say to you? That already says to me that there is some prejudice within the court system of New York against crypto and against some things that I might consider constitutionally protected rights. And so I think this case could last a long time, and I think it could get all the way up to the Supreme Court. But
best possible case scenario is that this goes to a district court. The district court looks at it on the merits and says, "This is stupid. Get this out of my courtroom," and then tosses it and says that this is not how we do law here. That would be best possible case scenario. I think you're very correct with the sentiment that like this is an issue that honestly could be addressed to the Supreme Court, and that level of seriousness and weight would very much apply to something like this, because this also goes into your right to privacy and your ability to transact privately. Like, do you have that?
And to build technology.
It's that as well.
Are you responsible for what you build and how others use it? I mean, that's a really big question. And that's something that would change law as we know it. Like you're talking about gun rights. I could think of a few other examples as well. I think this could create incredible precedents, and it is the type of case I could see going really high. But like you said, let's hope that it just gets thrown out. The judge says, what is this? How can we, find someone guilty when they didn't commit the crimes?
I know I've got some. Go for it, Will.
I was going to say, I've got some not so great news. Roman Storm is slated to be tried in the Southern District of New York in September.
Yep.
Roman Semenov remains at large. So that's not so cool. And I will say that I do like the Ethereum fork of Tornado Cash, Zero Knowledge, Zero Expectations, ZKZX. Their original site is down. I think they're hosting on IPFS for those of you guys who are aware how to do that. I have no idea. You got to go and read their GitHub. But there is a thing on Pulse Chain that you can use that's basically Tornado Cash on Pulse Chain.
And I want to I want to mention
recommend or yeah.
I was just going to say the government has said that U.S. citizens can't use these.
Yeah, they've made that very explicit. So
be careful. I don't recommend using them.
Yep.
This isn't financial advice. We're only talking about what exists and is it legal or illegal.
Engage
but currently, currently no U.S. citizen is allowed to use these mixers.
Yeah, this is very much a bit of a libertarian rant, but here's the question. What is the underlying crime here? The underlying crime is facilitating money laundering. Okay, why is money laundering a crime? Well, because it circumvents government reach and accountability for taxation purposes. Oh, okay, so the only reason that you don't want people to do this is because you're trying to impose taxation on these people. All right. Is this really a crime against other people? No, It's a crime against the government and them trying to get their cut of your money. So it's like if it automatically assumes that everyone that uses a mixer is a bad faith actor and that it will be used for nefarious purposes. The whole point of money laundering is that you're either trying to circumvent taxation or you have acquired money through illegal means, aka it's already not documented, and now this is one more way to try to capture those criminals who are unable to be caught through conventional methods. So there's two ways to
guilty until
this.
Proven innocent.
Maybe that, but the point I'm more driving at is that you are either, this is the government admitting that it is unable to catch criminals where they're committing crimes, and that you have to find some like roundabout way to do it, or it's the government ensuring that they get their pound of flesh from all the citizens. So either way, it's kind of just not great look on the government, in my opinion. But again, that's very much a libertarian rant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here's another L for the Netherlands, right? One of the arguments made within that the article covered was that, look, you should have put systems in place that would have prevented bad actors from using it in the manner that they did. I'm like, are you fucking retarded? Like, do you have any, like, do you have a modicum of critical thinking ability? So you mean, is he supposed to have a fucking crystal ball? Is he supposed to be able to extrapolate every single outcome that could potentially come from using his software, including all of the bad ones? Like, you've imposed a standard that nobody can fucking meet, you losers, right? Big fucking L for the Netherlands for this decision on Alexei, bro. Okay.
Yep.
This shit getting
This is the
fucking
down.
tight,
This
right?
is the dark
God.
side of the sword of infinite possibilities, which is that you can use this tool to do any infinite number of things. But the dark side of it is that you can also use it for an infinite amount of bad things. It does not mean that the object itself is good or bad, but it is the intention of the user. Therefore, is the person that made the sword of infinite possibilities at fault? No, it's still the person that wields it.
Yeah. On a brighter note, let's end this on a brighter
Let's
note.
do it.
Will, can we play the clip? So we went over this particular stablecoin hearing a few months ago. At the very minimum, here is the temperature in the room when it comes to all of the crypto companies, whether you like them or not, because this is including some centralized entities, on what their thoughts are on using mixers like Tornado Cash.
I'm not sure what clip you're referring to, Jay. Do you have it pulled up? Ah, there we are. Go ahead.
I am the one with the clips today, Will. I am
Okay.
listening.
Good work.
All right.
Yes, I have a shitty Walmart laptop.
I want to go to this next clip because this gets into Sherman and Cassidy. You guys remember Sherman, but this is one for sure. You guys are going to love this. Listen in.
Please raise your hand if you will agree that if you would support legislation to make it illegal for Americans to do business with any exchange or other crypto service provider that ever uses a mixer. Let the record show no hands went up.
We traced the flow of funds across 29
That's
different
the
blockchains,
clip right there,
about
Will.
70
Or is
million
he?
different assets today. So we are
Please stop.
following
Let the
flow of
record
funds
show.
across different blockchains.
That's it. No more, no less.
Yep. So let the record show that no hands went up when our favorite, Congressman Sherman, he's making a name for himself as one of the main detractors within the crypto space for sure.
Real quick, for some context, the people he's talking to that are testifying before Congress are crypto professionals from sites like Coinbase. That is who is testifying in front of Congress. So this is entities that, like, or people that help run the entities like Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, all that stuff. These are the ones saying that, no, we don't want to make mixers illegal just for the sake of them being mixers.
Yeah.
It shows that this is what the actual crypto, I guess, market or this sort of professional space is driving towards, as opposed to what legislators are driving towards. Yep. And that conversation that we had previously, which was like, should you cut off your nose to spite your face? Should you declare all the mixers illegal just to fight the Lazarus group in North Korea? That is pretty much the exact conversation they have in the rest of this video. It's about 20 minutes long. I think it's a good watch. I think we've been featuring a lot of the Paul Barron Network stuff lately. Yeah. They make great content.
Yep, he's got a lot of good content, man. Again, a detractor from Hex and Richard Hart, but separate the wheat from the chaff, man. And he gets a lot of these clips before they even go live, right? So I don't know what the hell his sources are, bro, but he gets a lot of these hearings that usually they either only come out on audio, but he gets his hands on them. So, but I wanted to end that on a good note, right? Because whatever you might think about the centralized entities here in the United States, let the record show no hands went up when we proposed to create legislation that would prevent crypto companies from using things like mixers. Nobody raised their hands. Nobody. So
there you go. Crypto industry doesn't want it, even though the government's trying to push it. So there is hope that there is pushback, and it's coming from people that absolutely have their hand in the cookie jar.
Yep.
Yep. Speaking of folks with hands in their cookie jar, our chats collection has been adding up. We've now got 9 starred chats. So there's been 9 new folks that have joined us. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break to do, let me get my paper thing ready here. Chat shout outs. Dun, da, da, da. I'll have to get a soundboard at some point or figure it out. But let's see, Mrs. Producer, if you would be so kind. We have Jemmy coming in from South America somewhere. I can't remember where. I think she said Dominican Republic or something like that long ago. But Jemmy, it's nice to see you. She's also saying hi to Mr. Angry Twinkie and happy Sunday to everybody. Jemmy, it's good to see you. Excellent and outstanding. Up next, we got D-Based Swag Unit. Hell yeah. I'm not sure I've seen you before, good sir, or if I have, I apologize if I've forgotten, but good to have you, Mr. D-Based Swag Unit Man. Bradley Langan coming in with the hashtag never financial advice. You're absolutely right, sir. We do not give out financial advice on this here channel. None of that. This is all entertainment and value. Up next, Crypto Sloth with the yo. Crypto Sloth in the his house. We got a doctor. He's going to go and collect some teeth. What was that, Jay?
I said, what up, Dr. Sloth?
Hell yeah.
We need some new
next,
NFTs. We need some new NFTs with some doctors and sloth and doctor clothing. I think we got some round 2 NFT ideas coming out.
Hey, Bean,
there's some.
I got one with the scrubs.
I didn't get that one.
I got some cool sloth NFTs myself. Up next, though, back to the chat shoutouts. We got Mr. Large with like that smash button, DGens. He is absolutely right. That's the thing that I like to say when I hop into other people's chats is to remind the folks at home to like that smash button. That's all you got to do. Don't worry about comments, sharing, or joining or anything. One thing at a time, and that first, foremost, coolest thing is liking that smash button. Up next, we got Josh TH. My dad is 90. He asked me what the difference is between Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think I explained it well, but he's 90. Mr. Josh, sir, I think I reached out to you, and I haven't quite caught up with the chat yet, so I don't know if you've responded, but I did ask. I would like to know what your little elevator pitch is for Ethereum, and I'm glad that you were able to communicate such to your 90-year-old father. We'll see where he goes. I mean, hey, he's got money, but like realistically, there comes a certain age in a lot of people's lives where they just stop caring about most things, and like, hey, I'm glad that he's listening to you at 90 years old to talk about crypto and Bitcoin and Ethereum. That is kick-ass, bro. We love to hear it. Up next, we got Anonymous Sucro. Anonymous Sucro, scale into these fucking nuts. I threw the fucking in there because I think it's appropriate. Scale into these nuts. Got him. After that, we got Mr. Axis Alive shouting out Zenith, laying down that history lesson. Shout out to you, Axis. Shout out to Zenith. That was a really good history lesson, though, talking about.
Appreciated. I think
yeah,
it was the Magna Carta and English jurisprudence.
Yes.
And then that comment and the comment that we just highlighted definitely made me realize that the guy trying to explain common law and how law in the United States works also was the one that put on a tinfoil hat and said, inflate these nuts. So.
Yep. Inflate these nuts, Batman. Goddamn right, Zenith. All right, next up, we got Charlotte Nightstar, the werewolf, coming in with the high and the big hugs. So big hugs to everyone from Charlotte Nightstar. Good to see you again. And then finally, we got our very favorite Black Label Expat. What it do? We'll need to join that replay gang. Glad to hear it, bro. Good to see that you're doing great. Always a pleasure to have you in the chats. I remember you from my very first crypto mindset course. Black Label Expat is a classic member of the crypto community. So shout out to him.
Yeah.
Shout out to all you guys. Give yourselves a pat on the back.
Every single time I see BLX in the chat, bro, I think, man, that's a damn good name for a Korean pop band, bro.
Yep.
BLX.
Yes, it would. Dude, those Koreans make some funky bands, man. They make some funky bands.
Yes, they do.
And speaking of funky bands, we're going to band on over right into the funk of the U.S. House approving Crypto Fit 21 bill with a wave of Democratic support. So this is different from the SAB 121, right, which also had major bilateral support. This Fit 21 bill, I want to say, as I was reading through this article earlier, I saw we got a 279 to 136 approval for the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, with very strong showing from the House Democrats. This is fantastic. I love to see bilateral support or bipartisan support, whatever the bi community, all those bi folks up there at Congress getting together and passing cool laws and stuff. In general, I'm not a big fan of the government passing laws. I think that the less government does, the better. But I'm glad to see that they put this stuff through. And I'm wondering to see, I think that we were spitballing ideas earlier in the green room talking about like perhaps there's some sort of sneaky shit that they're putting in here that that is not so crazy cool. I wonder if we can run that through ChatGPT. Matter of fact, while you guys are discussing that, I'm going to run this bill through ChatGPT and ask it to bulletize the points. So go ahead and
to the full bill. It's about 500 pages.
253 to be exact. 253 pages.
Oh, jinkies. All right. Well, let's see if ChatGPT can summarize me just asking about it.
I got the
That's
link.
So 70 Democrats voted for the bill. And anytime you get a bill that's this large, you're always going to have, first of all, fluff in there that we probably aren't going to like. And second of all, when people like Nancy Pelosi vote in favor of it, there's always a worry in my mind that something in there is like a Trojan horse, which is what I meant in the green room. And yeah, there's a few things that are challenging within the bill, but keep in mind that even if this gets passed as is and goes to law, there's a lot of information that needs to be clarified before it actually gets put into place. And that could take a while to do so. But the biggest thing in my mind and the importance of this is what you're saying, and that's both Republican, Democrat support of crypto. And man, oh man, how quickly it's changing. I said this earlier. The sentiment within the Democratic Party in regard to crypto, the softening of the stance, the dovish tones, and frankly, the way that they're voting is enough for me to think that this isn't going anywhere. And I mentioned this in last week's episode. I had a friend that does quite a bit of investing, and we had a pretty long conversation about, I don't know, 6 months ago. I think it was September. I think it was October last year. So maybe a little bit more than that. Might have been March, actually. I can't remember. It was a few months ago. And he was like, man, I'm afraid that the government's going to ban crypto. And I said, look, it's a freight train. You can't ban it at this point. It's too big and there's too much momentum. All we're going to have to do is starting to see them fall into place. They're going to have to join the bandwagon or get off of it. And honestly, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that people, especially when it comes to elections, an election cycle, they want votes. And they're starting to see that this is what the majority of Americans seem to want. And therefore, if they want those votes, they have to at least be dovish on it, even if they don't like it themselves.
So I guess it's maybe a little bit of pushback. I was reading some other articles, not just this one, but some other ones talking about the possibilities for this bill and what its future could be. So there is some of the analysis I looked at says the bill might not pass the next phase in the Senate.
Yep.
And there is Joe Biden did come out and say that he does not support the bill, but that he would not veto it per se, which does leave the option of a pocket veto, which is pretty much like the president just does nothing with it until it kind of expires. And at that point, it's like a default no, in which case it would go back to the House and the Senate for that veto-proof majority. So this is what this bill is. This one is different than the SAB 121. Just to make it very clear, SAB 121 was specifically to fight against the SEC's rule that they put out that would make it so that crypto assets would have to be listed as liabilities instead of assets on balance sheets for banks, which means that they would also have to be covered by a certain amount of money in the bank. And as we know, ironically, banks hate having money in their own banks.
Yes,
they want
they
to get it out of it. So that's SAB 121. That one passed House and Senate and is now before the president. No decision on it just yet, but that one is in front of the president. FIT 121, what this does is it specifically, I like this, I found a good quote. It says, shoot, where'd it go? They called it, the point of this bill is to end the food fight that is multiple agencies trying to claim jurisdiction over crypto assets. So this one in particular is trying to claw some power and authority away from the SEC, who just like blanket at large has declared like everything is a security and we control everything. You have to go through us. And in this one, there's another body, which is the Commodities Future Trading Commission, which is kind of a twin of the SEC, but does commodity future stuff. They're saying, no, we actually have some jurisdiction here, so we're going to take control of this a bit. So in general, this is a move against SEC overreach and kind of the Gary Gensler and his team running roughshod over the rest of the marketplace. So I personally think that because of what we saw in the House, I think that it's very possible that we get similar performance in the Senate. So I think it's honestly probably a little more than a 50-50 chance that this gets passed in the Senate. But the other legal analysis that I was looking at is that, the political analysis is that this bill might not be, or this crypto issue might not be one of the biggest issues this election cycle. We have another thing later on that shows that we think it might actually become a bigger issue later on. But at the same time, if this does lose favorability or relevance to the general voting populace, then it means that honestly, something like this, they might just like stop progressing, even if it is supposed to go before a vote in the Senate. They just might just never get to it on purpose, just to focus on other things going on. So I think that this has some good momentum, but at the same time, if the winds shift too much, stuff like this could fall through the cracks.
I've got a pretty good summation. If we want, if you guys want me to run through a quick little summation of Fit 121, I have gone ahead and offered the share screen. All right, so let's see. Here are the salient points of the Fit 21 Century Act. Regulatory clarity provides a clear regulatory framework for digital assets by assigning responsibilities between the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. And this is all from Wikipedia, by the way. I guess is where ChatGPT 4.0 pulled this from. They're going to go over CFTC jurisdiction, which is regulating digital assets as commodities if their underlying blockchain is functional and decentralized. SEC, so that's a big one. Yep. Functional and decentralized. Boom, baby. SEC jurisdiction. The SEC will regulate digital assets as securities if their blockchain is functional but not decentralized, with certain exceptions for assets that meet specific criteria. So there's probably some good shit to dig into there.
Yeah,
it's actually what's up.
One of the things of this bill is that's interesting is how they define decentralized.
Yeah,
sufficiently decentralized. That's a very interesting thing.
They have a very, very tight definition of what decentralized means. So it's like there's no question if you fulfill this criteria, again, right, whether it goes through modification or not, yet to be determined. But as it stands, their criteria for determining what a decentralized entity is, it's pretty tight.
Yeah, Jay, but I'm gonna disagree with you there in a sense. It's pretty tight, but is it can you actually apply it? I don't know if they can apply it to all of the blockchains because they don't know who owns 20% of a coin or not, because wallets aren't private, wallets aren't public. So in a lot of ways, they might have a definition that's tight, but the way that it gets applied in court might be very challenging for a lot of these projects.
Yeah, it's fair. That's fair.
So I will say the last 2 points on this little summation by ChatGPT is that the next steps, obviously, we're waiting consideration in the Senate, and also that it had bipartisan support was pretty cool. The other thing I thought was interesting was secondary market trading. So I don't know if you guys had noticed this, but this creates a process to allow secondary market trading of digital commodities initially offered as securities. So I don't know what that means, but that sounds like securities. If things are even like deemed to be securities, then now there's some sort of still an option for it.
It's just creating a marketplace. You can kind of imagine that the traditional stock market is just a securities trading place because it's businesses. You are investing in something that relies on the effort of others, and you have expected gain from it to some degree. So don't overthink that one too much. It's pretty much just saying that even if things are securities, you still have the ability to trade them.
Yeah. This part that I have highlighted I thought was interesting. Consumer protections impose comprehensive consumer protective measures, including requiring digital asset developers to provide detailed disclosures about their projects and digital asset institutions to segregate customer funds from company funds and disclose conflicts of interest. So this is interesting for those.
If that is fallout from the FTX stuff, because that is one of the big issues from that whole saga.
Yeah, like think about Coinbase. When you guys send your money from your Coinbase account off to a different wallet, it comes from like one of the Coinbase major wallets, like whether it's Coinbase 1, Coinbase 6, Coinbase 5, Coinbase 10, whatever, right? That money comes from that like one wallet and is bundled up in a gigantic transaction and just shotgunned out to, it's part of like a gigantic like gigantic transaction that Coinbase does. But now, like, I'm wondering if Coinbase will have like specific wallets and just create a whole bunch of tiny little custody wallets and then just associate that to user profiles and stuff. But make it public though, or maybe not public, but
so this is public. The thing that I want to say is we went over this on the emergency stream. I think when this all dropped on Tuesday, we went over this in more detail, right? But so you know how Coinbase is the primary custodian for most of the people, most of the folks who have the ETF, right? They are required to separate that Bitcoin, right? They are not allowed to intermingle with other customer assets, right? And so this is kind of reiterating that point that if you are going to be involved with customer assets, those need to be separated and segregated. You cannot do a Sam Bankman-Fried where you tell your customers that your funds are safe, but you're engaging in degenerate gambling activities over in other markets. None of that shit. So yes, they will be public. They will be public.
Yeah, I was going to make a small shout out. The idea of separating business and customer funds is definitely something in line with a well-known author that we've talked to previously, Christine Stevenson. So
that's my mama. You heard it here first, folks. Pay your taxes. Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a hard transition because we've beat this one up pretty darn good. We're going to go ahead and hit this Trump video from Twitter.
I actually have. We're going to do the Twitter stuff, but I have a quick one that we can throw in here first.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's do it. We are coming up on the 2-hour mark, so let us. Oh, very beautiful.
Cool.
Oh, rest in peace, Doge.
Rest in peace.
Yep. So we have Elon Musk tweeting out the picture of Doge. So for everyone that doesn't know, the dog that was featured on Dogecoin died. I think he lived like 20 years or something.
18 years.
18 years.
Yep.
Thank you. Boy had a long life. So good on that. But at the same time, Elon is saying that OG Doge has ascended to heaven to be with his friend Harambe.
Yep.
R.I.P. man, a legend.
F in the chat.
Will be remembered.
F in the chat.
And let's not forget that before Dogecoin, this dog was a meme, one of the most used memes all around the internet. And then it happened to become one of the first and most adopted meme coins. And look, Doge, you can argue if it's even a meme coin these days because it is a top 10 coin
by market cap,
by market cap and all of crypto. Now we know market cap doesn't always matter, but it's huge. You know, Shiba's up there. I think Pepe will get to top 15 this cycle.
I think so.
I'm predicting that.
Yeah, Pep and Whiff certainly have a chance.
We shall see.
Alrighty, on to the other Twitter article. We have the last major talking point. This is from the British Huddle. He says, "I'm speechless. Woke up to this. Never thought Bitcoin would be this front and center of a U.S. presidential election at this stage." Oh, excuse me. There we go. Says, "Never thought that Bitcoin would be this front and center on a U.S. presidential election stage. This is the power of American networks and distributed ownership." I'm going to cover the rest of this after we watch the video because I think the video should explain some of the numbers that he spits out.
Support the. I will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA, not driven overseas. I will support the right to self-custody. To the nation's 50 million crypto holders, I say this with your vote. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
There you go. Right out of the words right from the horse's mouth.
Yep.
Talks about custodianship, promoting crypto and Bitcoin investment and development inside the United States, and then also preventing a CBDC by the government. So again, for the folks that have been watching this show the last few weeks, you notice that we've been pointing out whenever people are drawing their lines in the sand for how they stand on crypto along the political sides. This is Donald Trump. Whether or not you like him, he's planting the flag and making it known how he feels about these things.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting because I said it a long time ago before we got anywhere close to regulatory clarity. We're still not there fully yet. But I said if we start to push crypto companies overseas, that is actually going to hurt the United States and their ability to continue to be the financial center of the world. Because when you have new emerging technologies that affect money so much, you need that technology to be built in the United States. Look at how big some of these companies are, how much money that they are going to be worth here in the next 18 months, let's say. If you don't have that happening and being built in the United States, they're going other places and they're helping those countries. And that's not good for the United States and for our economy. And Trump sees that, which is great. Now let's call a spade a spade. Trump obviously tells people what they want to hear. I think most politicians do, right? And but I will give him credit, because until he started to be so pro crypto, so to speak, we didn't have any sentiment changing the Democrats, and he put pressure on them to have to change their thought process if they want to garner some votes of people that own crypto. And so him being so forward in his thinking, in his speech about crypto, it's actually what's helped change the sentiment as a whole, in my opinion.
Yeah,
for sure. I know for the people that might be having a visceral reaction to watching a Donald Trump clip, I implore you this: please don't just let yourselves get just bogged down in the Team A versus Team B aspects of the two-party system that we have in the United States. I mean, the saying goes that our system is the worst, except for all the rest. So it's not a perfect system, but it's a damn good one, I'll be honest. So the point is this, which is that Donald Trump, I know, is famous for saying he wants to bring everything back to the United States, whether it's manufacturing or any sort of production stuff. However, the truth is that this is actually the issue that is perfect for that. This is an industry that can absolutely be brought to the United States. Hell, it's already in the United States. It's just currently being driven out of it. The only thing that you're really producing with this kind of stuff is people writing code and software and establishing businesses and ideas. This is not like you have to go physically build infrastructure and get machines and factories and workers going. No, it's literally just people building crypto projects, which you can do from a laptop from anywhere. So why not do it from the US? This is honestly one of the best pitches he can make. So if understand what your issues are, if crypto is an issue for you, I implore you, you might want to take a second look at this guy. At the same time, though, if he's not for you, he's not for you. I'm not pushing anything on anybody.
Yeah,
I'm just imploring you to ask yourself why you hold the beliefs that you do, and if they are rational or irrational, and if you are willing to change them.
No, I'm pushing Trump. If you care about your bags, you know the other thing that struck me after after Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago speech, after this particular speech, absolute fucking silence from Biden. That's even louder, because like Trump mentioned that video, and like we mentioned last week, 1 in every 5 voters in swing state say that the crypto issue is a major deciding factor on how they will vote. So people obviously care about their damn bags. So if you care about your bags, who are you gonna vote for? Joe Biden? For Pocahontas? I don't think so, man. The silence from Joe Biden within this week in particular, bro, and the very lukewarm letter from the White House about how, yeah, you know what, we don't really agree with 21, but we certainly are going to move forward with our regulators to create one. It's a very lukewarm statement from Joe Biden. Look, 50% of 50 million Americans, man, that's not an insignificant number. And if 50 million Americans say, I'm going to vote with my bags, bro, 50 million will swing an election.
Jay,
25 million will swing an election.
Look how many
50,000 people in specific states can determine an entire election.
Look at the margin last election.
That's the margin we're talking about.
Do you know how many black registered voters there are going to be in the United States for this election? Approximately.
Yo, Bean, did you see? I think this was on CNBC. Donald Trump has 22% of the nation's black vote.
Yeah, and he got
9% in 2020.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Almost 3x. Yes, and my point. Yeah, so Jay, and that's why a lot of states are swinging to his favor. That's crazy. That's 3 times as many people, right? Almost. But so there's expected to be about 34 to 35 million black voters in the United States. 50 million voters 50 million people own crypto. That's a large percentage. I'm just giving an example of how big of a amount of people. Now, of course, there's whites, blacks, Asians. Everybody can own crypto, right? And there's a lot of demographic variation there. I have no idea what the demographics look like. My point is, overall, it's just a huge number of people that care about this topic. And it is going to help swing votes. And that's why I'm saying we're starting to see a lot of change in a lot of people's tone, in a lot of the way that they're voting in Congress, because they know that their ass is on the line if they don't get a percentage of these votes. They're not going to have their seat in their House of Representatives or in the Senate if they don't start getting some of these people and voting. And look, we're starting to see the people that actually need votes, they're going against their party, right? They're going against the president, the leader of their party, in his stance on crypto. Why? Votes. That's what it comes down to.
Dude, on that note, do you guys know one particular dude in the Senate who voted for overturning 121? Take a guess. Senate
Brian
Majority
Boitano.
Mitch McConnell?
Oh.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer.
Chuck Schumer.
Second in command Democrat. It's not Kamala Harris. It's Chuck Schumer. And he voted to overturn 121. That's a big deal, bro. That's a big deal.
Well, let's expand on that a little bit. So you were saying that he voted for the bill, which would overturn the SEC rule. This is a big deal because it is open conflict within the leadership of the Democratic ranks. Because Biden has been very public saying that he wants to veto this bill. So if Jay said that number 2 man is fighting that number 1 man, it doesn't look like all the ducks are in a row over there. And there's some thinking going on about who's where and why are we differing on this stuff. I know it might seem it's very easy to think that this is all like super, super detailed minutia. However, at the end of the day, being a political operative and trying to understand how all the politicos do operate themselves, it is the game within the game. It is that metagame analysis of understanding the trends and directions and how that momentum is going. It's why we focus on things like this, which is we spent the last 3 shows, I want to say, talking about these different legislative bills, because these bills, are they unique in of themselves? I'd argue no, not necessarily. There's been crypto legislation that's been proposed all the time. However, the difference is that these are bills that have made it through the machine, people are willing to stamp their names on, and that people are willing to draw lines in the sand over. It's new. That is the new part, is that people are planting the flags where we haven't seen the flags being planted before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, I'm glad. So we're going to go ahead and move to closing because we're getting pretty damn close to that 2-hour zone. In fact, it looks like it's 9 p.m. Central right now. So this has been some good thoughts. This has been some excellent discussion. Gentlemen, let's go ahead and go around the horn and talk about what we're doing in the very near future and where the folks at home can find us. Starting with my fantastic co-host, Mr. Brendan. What do you got in the near future and where can the folks find you?
Well, you could find me on X at anonymous_bean. And other than that, my friend, I am just continuing to try to stack money. I'm trying to increase the percentage of my bags through trades, through LP farming, whatever the way that I can, because I only see us going in one direction over the next, 9 to 18 months. And I'm very excited about that direction.
Yes, sir.
I will not be able to stream this week, Wednesday or Sunday. So I have a wedding that I'm going to. My cousin's getting married, and I will be up in the mountains, which is always nice to get away and kind of relax and refresh. But that does not mean that I will be disconnected from crypto, because you can't disconnect if you want to be part of the market. If you want to make gains, you have to be paying attention all the time. Now, maybe I won't charge as much. Maybe I won't pay as much attention, but that doesn't mean I'm disconnected from crypto completely, because we just can't. And the people that do are the ones that generally aren't going to make it. Now, that's not to say that you can't just buy and hold long-term. Perfectly fine. But if you actually want to find those areas where you can make more and more gains and opportunities as they come, yeah, you have to be plugged in. So I'll be there. But I thought it was a great show, Will. Thank you for hosting ETH ETF. And I just want to give a final shout out to all of those who did pay the ultimate price fighting for our country. We wouldn't be here being able to talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. We wouldn't have the opportunity to talk about crypto if it wasn't for the brave men and women that gave their lives for this country. So I do want to take my hat off to them, and I do want to thank them and their families that lost loved ones. fighting for our country. Thank you all.
Outstanding. Mr. Zenith, where can the folks find you and what do you have going on in the near future, my friend?
Folks at home can find me on Instagram and Twitter at ZenithDI. That is my personal page. And if you want some memes and a little bit of education, check out the meme page I run, Hexaco Space Force, on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. That's where you can find all the weird videos that were too weird for the DGen Roundtable, but I still wanted to put out on the internet for some reason. Yeah, a lot of tinfoil hat stuff going on over there. But that is what I got going on. We have Whiskey Wednesday this Wednesday. So community show, hop on, hang out. If you want to talk to us, if you have any questions, I don't know, maybe about an Ethereum ETF and how it's going to affect the market or stuff going on. And if you really enjoyed all of the legal analysis that we gave here and you want to dive into it there, you can do that too. I don't know how many of you there are, but if there are some of you guys out there, I'm more than happy to chat about it. And then this next Friday, we have book club, not hosted by myself, but by our current host tonight as well, Will. We're going to be covering chapter 6 of Sci-Vive. It is Respect. I'm telling you now, if you want to start this chapter, start it early. It's 5.5 hours long, so she thick. So get going while you can. Don't wait till the last minute. That is all I got.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass it over to Mr. J and say a final happy Memorial Day.
Yes, sir. You know, I just want to comment on what Brendan said a bit earlier about how not disconnecting. Look, I agree. You can't ever disconnect from the market. You can't take your pulse away from your finger away from the pulse of the market. Here's the thing. One of my good buddies, Edwin, shout out to you. He is a very good friend of mine, a Chad investor. He has a few real estate properties here in Arizona. Also a big investor in crypto. And we were having dinner one time. And if your girl or your significant other or anybody's trying to give you shit about crypto, this is one thing he told me in particular that made me laugh, and hopefully it make you guys laugh. So he told this to his girl when his girl was like, "Oh, you know what? We should spend more time together. You should like stop like working so much and investing." And he was like, "Babe, do you like all these houses? Do you like all these nice dinners? do you like these nice cars? Then shut the hell up and let me do my thing." Shane had nothing to say. Because you do like the nice houses and the nice cars and the fancy dinners. So let your man do his thing. Okay?
Yep.
That's all I got. As always, you can find me on _P90Hex on X, at agent_JShroth on Instagram. Thank you as always for joining us this wonderful Sunday evening and every single time that you will be joining us for the rest of this week. We know that time is your most valuable asset. So we do appreciate that you spend some of that time here with us. Will, take us out, my friend.
All right, ladies and germs, before I take us out, I'm going to shill my brother's Two of Them cookbook. I'm traveling the States right now. Matter of fact, I'm over nearby Denver. I'm about to cross over the, I stopped driving for the sake of the stream since I'm hosting, so figured that'd be a good idea. But I'm about to cross over the New Mexico, Colorado border. So I'll be up in Denver for about a week, and then I'll be traveling eastbound on Interstate 70. So if you guys are in the United States and you want one of these fantastic cookbooks and you're going to be nearby, hit me up on will.pls.fyi. I will go ahead and drop that link into the chat. But essentially, that is the link tree for Pulse Chain domains. You guys can find my Pulse Chain address there. You can hit me up on any of my social medias, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, fucking I was gonna say AOL, but I'm not on there as a joke. And also Telegram. So you guys can find me there. If you want one of these fantastic cookbooks, of which there are only 50, then just send me a message or send me a little super chat thing. I think you can actually just fucking send a tip, like using the Pulse domains functions. Yep, a super comment. So a super comment is you basically pay some Pulse, and it'll and you can write words directly to us. So we might start implementing that in the near future. I know that we have a, I know that, oh shoot, what was his name from the Liquid Loans? He got us Walrus. Yes, he got us the Pulse domain for DGen Roundtable. So I'm pretty sure that Jeff is the one who's monitoring that, but I can reach out to Walrus and see if he still has that, or if he has destroyed it, or if there's something going on with that. But we might start implementing that for super chats in the near future, because I think YouTube takes like a 30 or 40% cut. Anyways, you guys can find me on all of the social medias there. yeah, that's basically what's going on with that. Otherwise, you guys need to go to bit.ly/degenerate_roundtable, which I suppose if I was a reasonable adult, I would also drop that into the chat for you guys. So I will get onto that right now after I drop this will.pls.fyi. But yeah, go to bit.ly/degenerate_roundtable, or if you could scan this QR code that's right down that away with your phone, that'll take you directly into our Telegram. And what that will do is you will then, oh goodness, these fucking little notification things keep popping up. I need to adjust my laptop so that it doesn't do that. But anyways, bit.ly/degenerate_roundtable. That's how you get into the Telegram. Degenerate_roundtable. I gotta put that in a copyable format thing there. But there, I've gone ahead and dropped that down in the chat. Click on that link. You'll join our Telegram. If you're a Hexkin, you want to meet other Hexkins, go to this little URL thingy that's directly underneath my name, bit.ly/hex_meetup. That is how you meet other Hexicans. There's rooms in there for all sorts of locations. Click on or type in that link, bit.ly/hex_meetup, and that will take you where you need to go for that thing. Oh goodness. Well, I guess I'll drop that link in there too. But other than that, we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. We know that, again, as Jay has said, time is your most valuable asset, and we do appreciate you guys spending that time with us, whether you're on the replay gang or you're catching us live. Mrs. Producer, get that trigger finger ready, because it's about time for us to get out of here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you to degen responsibly.